Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar, and happy Friday, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about why collecting Masterpiece third-party Transformers is different than collecting, well, anything else out there. We're going to talk about all of this. We're going to talk about how it's different than Takara, how it's different than Mainline, and all of those components that go into it, and how it might be the most exciting thing to collect today. Talk about it coming up. So I do want to admit, in the early days, I was really one of those official only guys or official KO only guys, and I did not go for third party. Collecting third party or the Fans Toys, X Transbots, MMC, and those kinds of things, different than collecting anything else, is production volume. The first thing we got to say is that we don't have exact numbers of production volume, but what I understand is that production of Titans Returns, they had announced that it was in the hundreds of thousands. So anywhere between 100 and 200,000 units for deluxe figures. And of course, it tapered off as the line went on, but around the 100,000 mark to keep it simple. So several years back, some numbers slipped out about Takara producing approximately 10,000 units per figure, but some units might be higher, like the MP10 might have closer to 80,000 because there are so many different color variations and the mold degradation on that thing. I think the mold does not work anymore because they worked it to death, but Hound is probably on the lower end. When it comes to third party, the production numbers are generally between 1,000 and 6,000. So nobody exactly knows because the numbers aren't officially released, but the people on the inside that let some numbers slip, it sounds like 1,000 to 6,000. And from the low side of 1,000, you don't see 500 production run. See, X Transbots worked it out to where they could do a 500 production run because they piggyback it on another production run. So, like when they did the G2 version of Minosaur, they piggybacked that on the standard version of Dragstrip, and they made 500 additional in a different color variation. So the next thing, aside from the low production, and we're going to get more into production here in a bit, but obscure characters. See, the thing about this is that there are very few obscure characters Takara is willing to make. Hasbro went deep, but deep on a $20 price point is different than deep on a $100 price point. And X Transbots is doing this, and a couple of other companies like Make Toys and a few others have gone on some more obscure characters, but they're taking all the risk. See, this is even crazier if you think about it. X Transbots taking huge risks right now making obscure characters. If Takara would make any of these obscure characters, it would be a 100% guaranteed sell. See, Takara doesn't even have to work at it. It seems like third party has to work harder to achieve these sales. And X Transbots is doing it. Not only are they putting these out, but they're putting them out for a very reasonable price. And that is working extremely hard to satisfy demand in the market. And Takara is just doing more or less the major characters over and over and over. So the next thing that kind of sets third party aside from collecting anything else is the higher end materials. Now, we know that Fans Toys does utilize a lot of diecast. Fans Toys utilizes a lot of paint, and Fans Toys feels like an extremely premium product when you hold it in your hand. Now, the question comes up, will the Robot Paradise meet those expectations? Will this Soundwave still feel premium, or will it feel like a cheap piece of junk? And is that why they changed the name? Some people say, well, no, because it's the character. But we kind of found this out back in the day that when they did the Robot Fusion, the one Robot Fusion Dinobot, people say it feels cheaper compared to Scoria. One of the things that makes these figures feel like they're heftier and much more high-end is diecast, and they did. Takara used diecast in their Seeker 2.5, 3.0 figure, but it still does not have near the heft of the newer Seeker that came out. the deformation space. So the next thing I want to talk about when it comes to collecting third party versus everything else is the resale value. And there's some reasons behind the resale value. Part of the fact is the inconsistency in production. So the thing is that you don't know when we'll get a reissue. You don't know if we'll get a reissue. You don't know if we get a reissue if they're going to completely change the color scheme and it won't be even the same looking figure. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on when it comes to collecting third-party Masterpiece Transformers, and a big part of it is a production schedule. Now when Takara comes out and says we're going to make a figure and it's going to be out in September 15th of 2017 or whatever, and if they're delayed, they say, okay, we're delayed by maybe 3 weeks. So we've got 3-week delay, and they come out, they're upfront with it, and they deliver 3 weeks later. Now, that's a different story when it comes to third-party Masterpiece Transformers. So third-party companies generally come out and say, we have this figure coming, and the release dates are only on the distributor sites, and they are tentative, and they change almost daily. But we have waited months, if not years, in this case, for a figure to come out. Now, I'm not upset if we get a good figure, but it is frustrating when you're used to Takara giving you a date, and it's within a couple of weeks, and you've got it, and then another one, you pay it in full 3 years ago, and you still don't have it. And Hasbro operates in a quarterly fashion. We'll have it in first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, or whatever, and they usually deliver at Walmart months before that. So we get figures by like Big Firebird and Icy that are hard to find for less than $200 now. Originally came out for like $63 on Show Z, and now that figure is a tough figure to find for under $200 if you're going to get it from a reliable source. So the other thing that really affects our hobby is knockoffs and KOs. And I've got a lot more to say on the KO discussion, but I'm going to touch on a few of the points right now. First of all, it seems like everything Takara makes gets knocked off. And I used to think it was just people targeting it. Maybe these companies target Takara because they're the biggest, the big dog, and they know they'll sell. But I'm starting to think it's different, because none of them get in trouble for knocking off Takara ever. Nobody's ever got in trouble for knocking off Takara. It almost is like Takara sells slots for them to knock off their figures, and Takara's getting kickbacks. That's got to be what's going on, because if Hasbro even gets a sniff of one of their figures getting knocked off, they go after them like crazy. On the other hand, you've got Takara, and every figure that comes out systematically gets knocked off in 5 different colors. So I do want to say, when it comes to the third-party Masterpiece realm, you never see Fans Toys or X-Transbots get knocked off. X-Transbots almost did, but Keith undercut them on price to where it wasn't worth their time to bother. Make Toys got knocked off by Yes Model for these figures, and I didn't know what was going on. I bought it. I thought I was buying Make Toys. I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't really care. But when it came to these guys, I understand it's a possibility Make Toys is struggling for some cash. Yes Model offered them some thousands of bucks or yuans, and they took it and went about their business to get these knocked off. So I really believe if a third-party company gets knocked off, they basically signed off on it and they're getting kickbacks from it, just like what's going on with Takara. So the next point about collecting third-party Masterpiece Transformers that's different than a lot of other hobbies, especially Takara, is you get so many figures, characters per year. And that's for a plethora of reasons. Not only do you get a lot of characters from one company, but you have a lot of companies going after the same market with different characters. Hopefully different characters. I mean, we're going to see some spots in there where the same character comes out from multiple different companies in the very short time frame, like the Minosaur Wars, the Springer Wars, and the RC Wars, and that kind of stuff that's going on. But for the most part, it's kind of fun to enjoy watching these things come out and get released and see what's happening next in the third-party community. And that gets into sort of another point, and it's kind of a mesh of a few points, is celebrating each Masterpiece Transformers release one at a time. There was a time in 2014, and then I kind of felt it last year when it got crammed, all of the figures that were bottled up and bottlenecked and they hit at once. And it's kind of more fun to have one Masterpiece release at a time to celebrate the figure. The whole community gets excited about it. We all talk about it. And then we kind of move on to the next one. But when you get 5 at the same time, it doesn't make any of them special. Doesn't make any of them as enjoyable as everybody celebrating one figure, one character, all at the same time. So I want to circle back to how this hobby brings us lots of joy. It's a lot of fun to collect all of these figures that were beautiful on the screen and kind of sucked in G1, but to get precise, near perfect representation in both modes in a Masterpiece scale is outstanding. We even have Hasbro giving us the Titan class figures that we may never see realized in Masterpiece scale. Yes, Fizz toys and their proof of model with their Fort Max that possibly might be coming, it's still really exciting, but the vast majority of people have put all their money down on Titan class Hasbro. Lots of the figures that are announced are replacement figures, so some might even be an easy pass. Some might be, well, you look forward to them, but others will pass. Others might be cash grabs that we catch on clearance. But in 2021, collecting Masterpiece, especially third party, has never been more fun. What do you think? In the comments below, let me know what you think. Like, subscribe to Aquarium Hanger. Out.